Welcome, everyone. I'm Sue Barber, author, former IT director for a Fortune 500 company, turned executive coach, and this is the Visibility Factor podcast, where we explore how to raise your visibility and play bigger at work and in life. We'll explore key topics and welcome guests that help you shift your thinking about yourself so you can see new possibilities for your leadership. I'm on a mission to create a visibility movement for leaders to show their value and be seen for their true talent. Are you ready to take the next step towards a higher level of visibility for yourself? Let's go. Today's episode of the Visibility Factor podcast is brought to you by Amplify You, the ultimate program designed to unleash your full potential and amplify your success. Imagine having a personal coach cheering you on, guiding you through a journey of self-discovery, and helping you break free from those limiting beliefs that have been holding you back. That's exactly what Amplify You is all about. Whether you're a leader now or aspiring to be one, this program is your ticket to a more confident, empowered you. It's like having a supportive friend in your corner encouraging you to dream big. It's about having the career success that you want and creating a life you truly deserve. Amplify You offers a unique experience to help you build the confidence to tackle any challenge life throws your way. If you're interested in learning more about the program, please visit susanmbarber.com and click on the menu item Programs. Are you ready to transform your life and your career? Let's make it happen. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Visibility Factor podcast. This is Sue Barber, your host. Today, we're going to talk about leading across generations. And this is part one of a two-part episode that we're going to have. But today, we're going to talk about the workforce of today and the shifts that are going to occur over the next probably 10 to 20 years. There are now up to 5 different generations in the workplace, each with vastly different ways of working, beliefs, and experiences. Now, as a leader, it's important to understand the challenges this creates and find ways to not only overcome them, but to leverage the advantages of having multiple generations in a workplace. This episode will focus on insights to support new ways of working together and some of the characteristics by generation to provide understanding of each other in a bigger way. So I want to start off with some data because I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't have a good grasp of at this point. So there are some statistics that I pulled from a episode that I'd done in the past, and I wanted to just share them with you here again. So the number of people 65 and older is expected to nearly double by 2060, and that comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. Between 2011 and 2029, about 3.8 million baby boomers are expected to turn 65 each year. That's about 10,000 people daily, and that comes from the Pew Research Center. And in 2016, millennials surpassed Generation X to become the single largest generation in the U.S. labor force. So think about that for just a second. That's changing the scope of what people today have been seeing in the workplace. So just to give you a sense of the total workforce, traditionalists, which are people born before 1946, that's 2% of the workforce. So there's very few of them left. Baby boomers, there's 25% of those in the workforce, and that's people who were born between 1946 and 1964. Gen X, between 1965 and 1980 is when they were born, and that's about 33% of the workforce. Millennials, 1981 to 1996, that's 35% of the workforce. And Gen Z is 1997 to 2012, and they're about 5% of the workforce, but they're growing each year, of course. So up next is Generation Alpha, and those are people who are born between 2013 and the mid-2020s. So more changes to come as more of those older generations retire and the newer generations come into the workforce. When we think about the different generations, one of the things that's drastically impacted it is technology. So each generation encompasses more technology, more things that we've grown used to having. But over time, that was not always true, right? So traditionalists had very simple things in terms of technology. Baby boomers had a little bit more. Gen X was the group that had like the first PCs and MTV and Pong, if you ever played that, like Atari games, right? Millennials were the ones who got the iPhones, and they got some of those smaller games Facebook, YouTube, a lot of things came into play for them. And then Gen Z, it really exploded, right? There's all kinds of things now, all kinds of social media, drones, Bluetooth, LinkedIn became bigger, Snapchat, Twitter, which is now called X. So every one of these things came into play over the last few years. And as those things have grown, it became the norm, right? A lot of these companies didn't exist back in the baby boomer time or even in Gen X time. So Amazon's, all of the companies that we now take and just see as companies that we use every single day didn't even exist. None of those companies existed. So a lot of changes happened in the tech space. Now, if you think about each generation, they have strengths and gifts to offer. Each one has its own, and they have different expectations in terms of what they want from the workforce and the workplace. And I just want to go through a couple of these. So baby boomers, they're generally optimistic. They enjoy mentoring other people. They have a strong work ethic. Gen X is more independent, innovative, and strong communicators. Millennials started caring more about the purpose in the workplace and that the companies that they worked for really did something good for the planet or whatever kind of cause that they really cared about. And then Gen Z are digitally fluent because they've experienced it their whole lives. They're generally practical and they flourish in diverse workforces. Now, for each of these different groups, they have different expectations about what they want from their employers. So a baby boomer wants someone who's a loyal employer. They care about hierarchical culture because that's all they know. That's all they've ever dealt with. They like the chance to mentor other people and they want respect. Gen X wants a trustworthy employer, someone that they can trust to tell them something and that it actually takes place. They want problem-solving opportunities. They want people who are competent that they work with, and they want autonomy to make their own decisions. Millennials want an empathetic employer, meaningful work, training for new skills, and flexibility. And Gen Z wants a culturally competent employer, competitive wages, mentorship, and stability. So you can see that each group has different experiences that they care about and different things that they're expecting. So if you're managing someone in a different generation than you are a part of, it's good to understand what they're expecting. If you have an overall understanding of what that generation's looking for, it might help you in terms of communication and other things that you're doing with them. So the oldest generation in the workforce, the silent generation, grew up without today's technology and a lot of other conveniences that younger generations take for granted. So a lot of those members have had to overcome a lot of things in their lifetime, right? Adverse economic conditions. So they established really diligent financial habits. They saved a lot. They're hard workers with strong core values. And so it's really interesting to see some of the things that they might talk about that may not resonate with younger generations because they experienced different times, different experiences in their life. Born after World War II, the baby boomers have long been known for their strong work ethic as well, and they're very goal-centered. They're hardworking, value face-to-face interaction. They didn't grow up using computers, and they're going to use them now because in many cases they're kind of forced to with banking and even, shopping on Amazon or other types of online things. They've been forced to try to learn that, but it's not their comfort zone, right? It's not something that they have experienced for many years. And so they're still learning. Gen Xers were shaped by the evolution of personal computers. So this generation is generally more educated than previous generations. They were probably the first ones who all went to college in their families. They're viewed as self-reliant and hardworking, and they're very often viewed as fiscally responsible. Millennials, the largest generation in the current workforce, started working during a recession, which has greatly really impacted how they view their long-term careers. They grew up as an internet revolutionized society. So they're comfortable communicating digitally more so than any other generation. And they tend to adopt new social media platforms really quickly. In this workplace that we are in today, members of this generation may prefer to send instant messages, email, or text rather than walk across the room to chat with someone, if only for efficiency purposes. So you can see that their mindset is speed, right? They're trying to get something done and move on to the next thing. Now, let me share where this is a challenge. I have a real life example here of a client that I worked with where we were working together about communication and how we can help improve communication throughout their organization. And so they wanted to do some training to help improve them. And so they brought me in to talk about that. And I wanted to meet with some of the senior leadership and talk about what some of the challenges were. And so this one gentleman shared with me that, he has both internal employees and external contractors on their large scale projects. And the senior leader shared this example of a challenge he had recently faced. So he was working on the designs of a project with an external contractor. Now, it's relevant here to state that he was a baby boomer and the contractor was a younger millennial. So he texted the contractor to see if she could give him a call to talk about some questions that he had. She texted him back, "What are the questions?" He said, "It would be easier if you can give me a call." She said, "Just shoot me a text with the questions and I'll get right back to you." So he's getting frustrated now. He said, "Can you just give me a call about this?" And she continued to push the texting approach. She ended up getting fired from that project because she could not see past her way of doing things. And he, in some ways, right, couldn't see past his way of doing things. So it's a real problem to really understand that there are differences and you need to understand those differences so that you can work together in the best way. And we want the best working relationships. So part of what I'm hoping to share today with you is some things that will help you understand each other. If you're working for someone who's a Gen X or a baby boomer, understanding what they think about and vice versa. If you're leading a team of Gen Z or millennials, you need to understand how they think. Members of Gen Z have always seen smartphones as part of their life, right? Your parents might have had one and they started playing with it as children, and now they have their own. They are more focused on who a person is and their characteristics versus their race or ethnicity. They are connected to people globally thanks to technology, and they have formed relationships with people all over the world, and some of them they've never even met. So let's talk about work styles. Traditionalists tend to be linear and follow the rules, thinking that change is necessary only when things are broken. Baby boomers like structure. They like the organization to be structured. They like rules. And they're very cautious about change. So it's really hard to sometimes move someone who is from the baby boomer generation unless they really understand that it's a severe problem to take care of. Members of Gen X tend to be flexible. They'll go with whatever direction things need to go. They're more open to change. They want to change the rules, actually. They want to see something be different. They're not just willing to accept the status quo because they see change as an opportunity. Millennials have more fluid work styles. They're willing to do things differently and expect to create the rules with change so that it improves things. They're always looking for how can we make this better, faster. Remember, they're always trying to be more efficient. And then members of Gen Z are agile and seek balanced rules, seeing change as simply reality because they've experienced so much of it in their lifetime. In terms of relating to authority, the different generations have different relationships with authority. Traditionalists have respect for authority because they've grown up in more of a hierarchical system where seniority and job titles are valued. And their attitude is, tell me what I should do for you. So remember, in their generation, they were being told what to do. It was more of a command and control management structure. And so if the manager told you what to do, you went and did it. Baby boomers challenge authority and desire flat organizations that are democratic. They tend to have the mindset of, let me show you what I can do for you. So they're trying to show the different things that they can do and show that they can be leaders. Members of Gen X may be unimpressed by authority and expect their competence and skills to be respected. Their approach could be, tell me what you can do for me. So they're looking for their leadership to be competent and to help them develop and to give them opportunities. Millennials respect authority, at least the ones who demonstrate competence. Their attitude tends to be, show me what you can do for me right now. So remember, again, speed. They're looking for speed and trying to get things done. And then members of Gen Z respect the process and follow direction, but want to be engaged. They want feedback. They want to know that they're doing a good job. They want to be in the communication. And management shouldn't just talk down to them and say, you should just go do this. Because leaders are looking to grow and they've been exposed to so many things that they're coming in with a lot of knowledge. Many of them come into the workforce with multiple internships. So they have had a lot of experience in the workplace already. And so I think sometimes people might perceive them as not being very experienced yet, but they actually have more experience than definitely more than I did, I can tell you that. So some leaders might struggle with this and see that as a problem. But if you can see what they can do and give them a chance and give them some opportunities to try things, you might just see that they can be stronger than you realized. In terms of work environment, traditionalists appreciate technology, but again, they're not familiar or comfortable using it. So giving offline options to complete tasks can help them feel like it's a more positive work environment for them. They, again, love to meet face to face. And so even just remote work might be a challenge for them. Baby boomers aren't looking to job hop. So they see as job security as really appealing to them. They want to stay at one company their whole life. They appreciate formal, structured environment. And because they haven't had digital communication, they like group meetings. They like to be in person. So again, these two generations, traditionalists and baby boomers, like the face-to-face opportunities that they can get. Gen X may prefer an environment with a more individual emphasis. They may prefer flexibility to manage their workload, as well as greater physical and psychological space. So they are used to being the ones that probably solved a lot of problems on their own. I know that for me, I grew up with, you should be able to solve the problem on your own. You should be able to figure it out. And I think sometimes that's where that individual emphasis can come through. And then millennials are going to flourish in a company that has deeper purpose, as I mentioned earlier, helping them understand the company's mission, how it makes people's lives better, improves industries or the world at large, allows them to see how they can fit in, and they really want to feel like they're contributing to the greater good. They like to work remotely, so if it's possible, they would be interested in doing that. Now, Gen Z was part of, the 2007, 2008 financial crisis. So they saw their parents dealing with a lot of struggles. And so for them, job security becomes a real big priority. They want stable opportunities that are going to last 2 to 4 years. And they're looking for something more. They want to be developed. They want to be involved. They want to improve processes. They like flexible work hours and will seek out environments that prioritize social responsibility and diversity. So those are things that they care about. In terms of how people want to be managed, in-person discussions with traditionalists, we talked about how they like to be in person because it helps them to clarify goals, allows managers to provide feedback, allows everybody to share their knowledge and expertise and what they know, right? They've been through a lot of different things in their lifetime. So they have a lot of expertise. Being open to listening to that will help them feel like they're sharing and contributing back. And I think every generation can learn from the other. Baby boomers are hardworking. They want to be recognized for their skills. They're also a great source of knowledge about their industry and what they've done, and they want to share that. So managers can share their skills and encourage them to mentor younger employees. Sometimes it's called reverse mentoring, where an older manager from another generation will mentor with another younger generation person, and they can trade knowledge. So maybe the younger one teaches technical skills to the older one can teach leadership or managerial skills to the younger one. So it's a great opportunity to bring the generations together. And I know a lot of great companies are doing things like that to bring people together. Gen X prefers less supervision, greater autonomy, and they're comfortable using forms of communication both online and in person. Gen X is, at this point, well into their career, and they have a lot of experience that should be valued. Many of them, of course, have families, and they want a flexible schedule so that they can have more healthy work-life balance. Gen X is probably the generation that had to change in so many ways because they started with no technology, they moved into technology, and now it's, a big part of their life. So they've had a lot of shifts to do in terms of how much technology is a part of not only their work life, but their home and family life. Millennials care about performance quality, and they judge their managers by the content of their work. They want to be judged for their results. Be transparent with communicating about work and invite questions from employees. They want to know how they're doing. So don't be hesitant to share feedback with them. I think any of the older generations, we kind of operated from a place of no news is good news. And when we get feedback, it was great, but it wasn't that we got it all the time. We probably got it more in our performance reviews. That has shifted a lot. Millennials and Gen Z want more feedback more often. Remember, on social media, they are getting feedback all the time, right? They can post one thing and get an immediate response with whether or not someone liked it or they didn't like it, right? They can leave comments. And so that feedback loop is fast for them. So they're not used to waiting for feedback until a certain time of the year. So find ways, if you are an older generation leader, to give them more feedback. I think they will really appreciate it, and you can get them to be moving in the direction that you want them to faster. Gen Z wants to be in highly collaborative management relationships. So they want to understand how to work well with their manager. They want to make sure that the company's got a strong mission, and they want these managers to help them learn how to grow. So spending time developing that generation specifically is really important to them. They want to know that they're being valued, that there are things that they can do to learn and grow. And the more you can help them, the stronger they will be. So we're going to end this episode here. I'm going to give you a visibility action step, but there will be a part 2 coming up in the next episode. So your action step for today is to reflect on your generational style of working, communicating, and leading if you have a team or project group. Now that you know the other generation's styles, are you adapting or are they adapting to you? So how you adapt to these kinds of situations is being observed by others, whether you realize it or not. If you're being rigid and refusing to change, it can lead to someone leaving the company or an unwillingness to work with you. Remember, people leave managers. So as a leader of an organization, you need to be aware of this and find ways to connect with them and understand the people that work for you. Remember, your reputation and image are important parts of your career success, and this is an example of what can impact it either positively or negatively. So take the time to get to know your people, understand where they're coming from, what they need, what motivates them, and you can make a stronger team come together in a much better way for you and for them. Thanks so much for joining today on the Visibility Factor podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening to the Visibility Factor podcast. Remember that visibility starts with small steps that are intentional and consistent each day. Be bold, be visible, be the leader you were meant to be. Find us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, which are highlighted in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Visibility Factor podcast.